Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Show to V with Mike G, the show of life, the show of cooking, the show of tragic fires, Austin, Chicago, and tequila. Today we chat with the vice president of the USPG for Austin, Texas, and a great brand ambassador for Casa Noble tequila, Mr. Aaron Kolitz. You know, I didn't know Aaron very well until recently, and I got to tell you, the dude is super smart, really there for you, very supportive, and really loves this industry. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this great chat with Aaron Kolitz.
Sometimes,
okay.
you know, you have those kids who are military brats, you know, the quote unquote military brat phrase.
Yeah.
Who definitely, want to follow in mom and dad's footsteps and go into the military. And
Which parent was in the military?
neither one of mine. No, really? Mine was pure education standpoint.
Interesting.
I went to San Antonio Academy, which is a middle school.
Mm-hmm.
I started there in 5th grade, went for 6th and 7th grade.
Oh wow.
And then went to Texas Military Institute after that, which is a middle and high school. And then did 5 years there, and the education was incredible.
Yeah.
That was the biggest standpoint that I take back from it today. Obviously, looking back at it now, it wasn't my favorite because it was a military background and an Episcopal school, and I'm not a very religious person, so being around that was kind of not my favorite. Let's say.
Ultimately, were you destined for the military? Is that what you're thinking?
No.
Just the pure education,
pure education standpoint.
Yeah.
The structure. Yeah, I was kind of a wild kid. So having that structure around was really great for me. Actually got into, back in San Antonio Academy, I started playing lacrosse in 5th grade, and that was a big part of my life as well. Played lacrosse from 5th all the way through college.
Yeah.
Played intramural. Tried to walk on to the D1 team, but I couldn't really do it.
Interesting.
But played intramurals, and that's ended actually how I found the restaurant business as a full career, because I did go to college to major in restaurant, hotel, and tourism management.
Yeah. What is this? All right. So this is the other thing too that was interesting. It was hard to piece for me together as if I was making some kind of investigative documentary about Aaron Kolitz, right? So did you move to Colorado for a bit too?
Yeah. So that's where I was in Denver. I was at the University of Denver in the hotel and restaurant tourism management program.
Yeah.
I found the restaurant business when I was 15. I started washing dishes at Easy's Brick Oven and Grill.
Yeah.
My dad at the time was one of the major owners.
Oh, no kidding. So that's how it ties in.
Yep. That's how Easy's ties into my whole career.
Was he in the restaurant industry or kind of an independent investor and that kind of thing?
A couple of his friends were some of the investors.
Yeah.
And then one of the guys wanted to back out. So his friends asked him if he wanted to buy their shares.
No kidding.
It was kind of Easy's has really been a staple in San Antonio for 30 years.
Yeah.
Cappy Lawton is the guy who started it.
Man.
And he's always been a good family friend. And my dad got into it, and he's still one of the majority owners today.
That's great.
Yeah.
Man, it's so interesting how it moves. But so what was the moment in the hospitality piece when you're saying, actually maybe I'd like to invest in this as a career?
I was a senior in high school. My dad wanted to pursue a little bit more into the business.
Yeah.
Had a friend who was a really amazing chef in San Antonio who approached him about investing in his restaurant. Ended up investing, and it was called Luna Blue Cafe. I went from washing dishes to being on the pizza prep line and grilling burgers at Easy's.
Oh, yeah.
To putting on a suit every day and going around as kind of the junior in training manager when I was a senior in high school at Luna Blue Cafe. And it was one day during service, and we were packed, and I was standing there with my general manager who was kind of giving me the ropes. And we were just standing over the dining room looking at the guests eating and enjoying and laughing. And I looked at it and I thought to myself, you know what? I can do this. I love making people happy.
Oh, that's great.
So it was just at that point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to switch my major because I was going to go into real estate, which is what my dad did. I was going to kind of take over his business at some point, and then I came to him and, you know what? I want to go to hotel and restaurant management school.
What did he say?
he wasn't too happy in the beginning.
I was wondering if it was a little contentious, but
the restaurant business is not one of the most, let's say, safe industries to be in.
Yeah.
So he wasn't too happy about it in the beginning, but he understood it. Yeah. So his whole thing was go to college and get a degree. And so yeah, he really didn't care too much. He probably thought to himself, let's just get him into a good school.
Right.
And if he wants to switch majors after a year, he probably will.
Yeah. And you spent how long in Denver then?
Only a year.
Yeah.
So after going back to lacrosse, after I blew out my knee my freshman year playing.
Oh, okay.
I had surgery and then I was in a cast and couldn't play lacrosse anymore. So I joined a fraternity, hung out with my brothers for a while.
Yeah.
And one of my classes, my freshman year of HRTM school, was actually intro to cooking.
Interesting. Okay.
So it was kind of, take all these business people, put them in a chef coat, give them a hat, give them some knives, and just teach them the basics of cooking. And I fell in love. I really fell in love with it. Food has always been a huge part of my life. Yeah. I've always been kind of one of those guys that will eat almost anything.
What is something you won't eat? Because I always think about that. I'll eat about anything too, and I have eaten things I didn't want to. But
it's I will try anything once, and honestly, I'll probably try it twice.
Sure.
But just simple things I don't like is eggplant.
It's pointless, isn't it?
It's pointless.
It absorbs flavor, but then so does anything else.
Exactly.
And it has nutritionally void too.
Yeah, it's just almost pure water.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right, I'm glad I got it off my chest.
Oh yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. One thing that I grew up with that I love eating so much is artichokes.
Oh yeah.
But today I can't because I actually developed an allergy over the years.
What is really?
Mm-hmm.
That's a very rare one. I haven't heard.
It's very rare. I've only met one other person in my life who's allergic to artichokes like me.
Really?
And it's artichokes and cardoons. Cardoons are the leaves that grow off. Yeah. So I'm basically allergic to thistles.
Man, that's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
Because most people get peanuts. That's like fucking overdone.
Yeah.
But thistles. That is a special kind of awkwardness.
And what sucks today in my industry is I can't drink Chinar.
Oh shit!
So
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean that's the first thing I think about is the things that I the business I'm in now is the liquor business, and the one thing that is distilled from is macerated with dried artichoke leaves is a Chinar.
This is really actually a very charming fact about you because. You won't turn down anything, but sorry, just don't buy me Chinar. Do you know if there's anything else out there that's macerated?
So the only thing I know from artichokes is Chinar.
Yeah.
And then Cardamaro is a fortified that is made from cardoons.
Oh no kidding.
So I can't drink that either.
That is
and I have had reaction. It's not a terrible reaction. Yeah. I do carry Benadryl with me at all times after I have had a reaction before.
Like throat closing kind of thing?
Not closing, but I blow up. My tongue goes numb. I get very red and blotchy. Yeah. It's just not a very pleasant experience.
And it's probably not worth. Chinar is good.
Yeah,
but it's not worth that.
I mean, let's just say I have taken, a shot of Chinar because I really wanted it, but I downed it with some Benadryl right afterward. Let's say that.
That's a great effect too. That's a nice Sunday cocktail.
Exactly. But did end up having to call it an early night that night,
See, sometimes you gotta go home early, get some rest. So it all works out.
And the good thing is the family here in Austin with the brand ambassadors and bar managers and everyone that I work with every day. It's pretty much gotten around town that I'm allergic to artichokes and Chinar. So when everyone else is ready to do a Chinar shot, they know to pour me a Campari shot.
It's a thoughtful group, isn't it?
It is. It's just a family. That's
always looking out for each other.
Yeah.
So cooking, you really take to. What is it about it? Because I don't want to assume, but coming from the military schooling anyway, lots of structure, probably lots of math and science.
Lots of math and a lot of history.
Right, there you go. So you now are talking about the spark of creativity in the other left brain side. Or is it right brain? Right brain. Yeah. So what is it? Was there anything else you kind of experienced scholastically that gave you the ability to be creative like that?
I was always the chemistry guy.
Ah, okay.
Like my senior year of high school, we had 8 periods. I spent 5 of them in the chem lab my senior year.
Oh, wow.
Whether it was, I was taking AP Chem and I was doing, I was a mentor and I had a study lab in there and I just kind of oversee. And plus my chem professor, Cecil Jeans, he was such an amazing, lovely man that we just kind of all fell in love with him. And my creativity side loved chemistry.
Interesting.
I was also in photography, advanced photography in senior year. I did a lot of artwork, art classes, clay.
Oh, really?
I was never too good at it,
But using your hands.
But using my hands. And I always love the artistic atmosphere of it.
Yeah.
So over the years, I finally found that my artistic ability and love really works well with food.
Yeah.
And that it's kind of it's an art chemistry kind of combination.
A hybrid,
yeah.
Which is incredible. So you then study at the Culinary Institute of America in San Antonio, and then you wrap and do the second half or so in New York,
sort of.
Right?
Something it was. Yeah. So the CIA wanted to open a brand new school in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Without kind of, if you will, a proof of concept.
Okay.
For the first 3 years, it was called the Center for Foods of the Americas. But it was taught by CIA chefs, either from New York or Greystone in California. It was their curriculum. Everything was CIA, but they just legally had to put CFA on everything in the beginning. But what they offered was that you could that they would get you into Hyde Park in New York or in Greystone in California to finish your degree.
Great.
And in the beginning, I didn't want to do it.
How come?
I kind of just wanted to get into the real world.
Yeah. So
I ended up moving to Chicago.
Bird and the Bee or something? What's the restaurant? One of the ones you worked with? The Bird and the something? Or there's so many restaurants you've worked at in Chicago that I can't remember, but...
So Girl and the Goat?
That's what it was.
Okay, yeah. That was toward the end of my time in Chicago.
Yeah.
But I ended up moving to Chicago, and I lived and worked there for about 18 months. And it was about 16 months in, I said to myself, you know what? I do want to go back to school and finish my degree. I am learning amazing things on a job. I was working in a 1 Michelin star restaurant at the time.
Oh, wow.
I was working under one of the greatest chefs I've ever worked for, Giuseppe Tentori. And it just felt like I needed to finish school. You know, I wasn't getting any pressure from my parents. Well, I mean, a little bit, but it was more of a personal desire. So I applied. I got in, but they couldn't get me in for almost a year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
At that time, there was a huge influx of chefs kids wanting to be a chef in New York. But I'd already given up my lease. I had already basically said I'm moving away from Chicago.
This is all starting to make sense now.
So I ended up moving back to San Antonio, kind of just putting all my stuff in my parents' house. And I had some money saved up. So I decided to just go get a backpack, and I went to Europe for 8 months.
Man. See, this works out so perfectly because I was like, how does this all chronologically does it work?
Yeah, the chronological atmosphere of my career and my past is very wonky. Yeah. But it all comes back together because I actually moved to Chicago ultimately 3 times total.
Yeah.
I moved to Austin 3 times total.
No kidding. Mm-hmm. And amidst this journey in Europe, you worked at a restaurant in the UK, a single Michelin or 2
Fat Duck. It was 3 star.
And I hear I'm thinking it's only 2 stars. So 3 Michelin, amazing. How as of some of the experiences, that one in particular, how was that?
That was incredible. At that time, Fat Duck was number 2 in the world on the San Pellegrino list.
Yeah.
It was very structured. It was during the month of December. So I was there from like the 27th of November until the 21st of December, which is when they close for the holidays.
Right.
It was very structured. It was 6 days a week. It was 16-hour days. I rented a bike for that amount of time.
Really?
Just a bicycle to get around.
About how old were you at this point too? Early 20s still, right?
Yeah, 23, I think. Yeah. 22 or 23.
Man.
So yeah, God, 10 years almost now. Wow.
You got a birthday coming up next week?
I do next week. Right? Yeah, next Wednesday.
What are you, 30?
33.
33. So you're right, 10 years. This is your life.
Yeah, exactly. So that was incredible. In December in small town outside of London in Maidenhead.
Yeah.
It was very dark, very gloomy, kind of like what the weather is right now in South Texas.
Yeah.
And biking after a 16-hour day, going to a bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
Where I was staying for that month, and going 30 minutes biking each way. So now we're at an hour, and I'm at the restaurant for 16 hours a day.
So you maybe sleep 5 hours?
Maybe sleep 5 hours,
yeah.
And then back at it again 6 days a week,
dude.
But the education I learned there, some techniques we learned there, was really really special at that point in my career.
It's interesting. This is kind of what would end up in the novel if you end up writing a novel and expanding the book. Were you able to find love and shit when you're in Europe? Or lust, maybe?
I spent a lot of time in Italy.
Okay.
During that 8 months.
Yeah.
It kind of ended up being Florence actually ended up kind of being like my home base.
Really?
So I worked when I was there for that 8 months, I had I had about 6 jobs.
Jeez.
A kitchen and a butcher shop and kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
In Italy, Switzerland, England, Denmark, and
Copenhagen, right?
yeah, Copenhagen, Denmark.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
And it was a fun time. And, whenever I didn't have a job or I didn't want to go travel and see, or I'd already done it,
Yeah.
I'd go back to Florence because Florence is such a beautiful city. I have a huge affinity to Italian food. That's really where most of my overseas studying has been.
Yeah.
And I found these amazing people that I just went back and stayed with every time.
It's incredible.
And yeah, I was staying in public housing and
Sure.
had some very fun friends who I met from Australia and New Zealand and China and Mexico and
Amazing.
all over Europe. Never really, had a love, let's say, but I definitely had some fun.
It's one of those things. 10 years by now, roughly, for you. Do you think that's something everybody should do? You think everybody's cut out for it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely think that I wouldn't say everyone should do it like I did.
Yeah.
I went by myself, with a little bit of money in my pocket. And I was able to set up jobs and, get some free housing and not have to worry about that and get all my, get meals paid for and, staging at Fat Duck for a month. I didn't spend a dime.
Yeah.
Because I ate at the restaurant for 3 meals a day. My housing was taken care of because they weren't paying us, but that's how they would pay us.
Oh, that's great. So they give you a place to stay. You just come to them. Okay.
Yeah. So basically you're learning the experience and then they're getting free labor.
Yeah.
Which today is very difficult to talk about, and then especially in our society.
Sure.
But it's kind of an international accepted thing to stage, for the experience. Noma was the same way, but Noma, I was there for 3 weeks. Noma wasn't as popular as it was, I say was because it's no longer there.
Wait, they moved, right?
Yeah, they moved to Tulum.
Okay. But that's got to be pretty recent that they did that, right?
I think 2 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, geez, I don't. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was an amazing experience because Renee was there every single day. Whereas when I was at Fat Duck, Heston Blumenthal, I only met him once, and that was on the last day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh. He was never there. Whereas Renee would actually come and hang out with us in the staging room where all the stages were.
Yeah.
And he would sit there and he would do all the tedious tasks with us and just kind of like ask us questions about our lives and just get to know us and actually make it feel like we are actually humans.
Yeah.
Instead of
not
treating us
slave
like
robotic labor,
and calling us very inappropriate names, as some of the British do.
They get away with words, don't they?
They get away with a lot. They get away with a lot.
Yeah. Because
when you're the second best you're the second best restaurant in the world,
even more.
Yeah. Exactly. Back then Noma was 35 on that list.
Wow.
And I remember coming back home and I talked to my dad and sat down with the experience with my parents. And I said, you know what? Watch out for Noma because that was a lot better than Fat Duck.
Damn.
And then 3 years later, it ended up jumping from 35 to 10 and then 10 to 5 and then 5 to 1 in the world.
It's, it's so cool. It's like, and I've used this analogy a couple times this past week because there's some great bands in town for ACL, but it's like seeing U2 at CBGB's, which I know a guy who did, right? Mm-hmm. Would they play at that club now? No. Well, no. One, it doesn't exist really. But you were at Noma at a time when it was perfectly pitched and everybody was working together and they were writing the best songs of their life. And then they blew up. That's got to be like a really cool feeling. Like you had to be able to feel it, right? You knew.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was even more special 3 years later. I had the opportunity to go back to Noma and actually have dinner, have a proper meal there.
Yeah.
While I was staging, they actually let us come in and have one meal whenever we got to choose. Mm-hmm. But I got to go back 3 years later with a bunch of friends and we got to go back to Noma. And Renee was there to welcome me at the door and said, welcome back. How have you been?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful culture to cultivate in an organization, Man. So then why would you dare come back?
Trust me, I ask myself the same thing every day. So I came back to go back to culinary school. So I came back. Oh man, the last day in Europe was a nightmare. I was leaving the town that I was staying in outside of Bray and where Fat Duck is called Maidenhead.
Yeah.
And I had, I had a giant backpack on. I had 2 rolly bags because that's how I was just going around.
Yeah.
And it was giant puffy Cokes. It was the 24th of December. It was snowing. It was 40 degrees. And I had, when I was traveling, I always traveled with that jacket because it had a bunch of internal pockets. And when you're traveling, you always want to keep everything important close to your vest.
Right.
So when I'm packing up in my room, I get everything. I know I have everything. I walk to the train station. I get on the train, buy my ticket, get into London. And then all of a sudden, when I get my jacket back on off the train, for some reason, my passport's gone.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
You had a hole in the pocket?
I to this day, I could not tell you. Man. I don't know whether the passport was in my jacket when I left the bread and breakfast.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it popped out on the train. I don't know if there's a hole in my jacket.
Dude.
But I made all the phone calls. I called the restaurant. No one answered because no one was there. I called the local pub that we all went to every single night, and someone was there and asked them. They said no. Called the bed and breakfast. They said no, your room's empty. Oh, jeez. So I ended up having to stay three extra days because that was a Saturday.
Oh man!
And the consulate wasn't open, or the embassy wasn't open.
Right.
So I had to stay Saturday and Sunday in London, which was awesome. I got to walk around and have some fun and eat some traditional food.
Yeah.
But it was still a nightmare because A, I didn't know whether I was going to be able to get home without a passport.
Yeah.
And then B, it was 3 extra days and I've been traveling for 3 months. It just, it was a drain.
Exhausting. Yeah.
And back then I wasn't, London 10 years ago wasn't what it is today.
Yeah.
And especially in the food and crafts, in the bar scene.
Right. Sure.
But at that time also I was broke.
Dude.
I didn't have any money left. So it just completely, I had to do it as cheap as possible.
How did you get it? So what do you do? So this is actually a nice lesson. So if I lose my passport in the UK, you go to the embassy.
Go to London. You go to the embassy.
Okay.
And you apply for an emergency passport.
I see. Okay.
And they print it for you right there in the embassy. It took about 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
It's a much thinner passport. It's only got like 3 pages on it, and it only lasts for 1 year. So normally when you get a passport, I believe it's 10 or 15 years.
Sure. Yeah. It's long.
Yeah. The emergency passport's only 1 year.
God, so you got to head out on Monday, a little more broke, a little more exhausted.
Yep. My flight's at 6:00 in the evening. I get to Heathrow at like 3. Yeah. I fall asleep in the airport. I actually asked the gate attendant, I'm like, hey, I'm on this flight. I'm going to fall asleep. Can you please just make sure to wake me up?
Please tell me they woke
really
you up.
Nice, really nice woman. She woke me up, but even before the boarding started, she's like, hey, just a heads up.
Oh, that's great.
Got on my flight and came home.
Were you flying back to San Antonio?
I flew back to San Antonio, yep. And then I packed up, took care of the holidays with my family. And then the first week of, I believe the 2nd or the 3rd of January that year, I packed up my Chevy Tahoe and I drove to upstate New York for culinary school.
How long did it take you to complete up there?
So up there, typically it's a 2-year program.
Yeah.
But in between it is a what they call an internship. Mm. So you have to go work in a restaurant for 4 or 5 months for the internship. And it's a whole homework problem. Like every week you have documents you have to take care of. And at the end you have an entire essay you have to write. There's a lot of documentation.
Yeah.
So I did the first 5 months basically of the program. And then I ended up going to Chicago. Got an internship at an amazing restaurant with a chef named Sean McLean. His restaurant was called Spring. Mm. Unfortunately, it's no longer there anymore. Amazing kind of Thai, Vietnamese, American fusion with a lot of French influence as well. Learned so much about Thai and Korean food, Vietnamese, and flavors. How to combine flavors from him was incredible.
Yeah. So
and then back to culinary school to finish my degree. Yep. And then after that, came back to San Antonio and figured out what I wanted to do.
What was that?
Moved back to Chicago.
It took moving to Chicago and then away again to determine you wanted to go back
exactly.
to Chicago. How long were you there that last time?
The last time I was there for 4 years.
Okay, so it stuck.
Yeah, yeah, that one stuck. I got my job back at Spring. Cool. Sean hired me back on and actually paid me this time.
Nice.
And learned the ropes again. Came back into it and worked with that kitchen crew that we had there. It was amazing crew. Mm. Two of those people are now running very amazing restaurants in Chicago. One of them is now running Sean McLean's restaurant at the Aria in Las Vegas.
Wow.
We had a great crew at that restaurant.
So I think people would they ask the same thing for people that bartend for a long time. Mm-hmm. When are you going to open your own place? Right? So this is a different side of it that seems like you're perfectly capable of handling the operational side and the cost side, but you're still like creating in the kitchen. I mean, leaving New York and coming back to Texas. I mean, there's an Arizona move in here too?
There's an Arizona move, yeah.
When is this one?
So after spring, I had an amazing opportunity to go work with Stephanie Izard at Girl on the Goat.
Okay.
She had, the previous year, she had won Top Chef. So she was now a household name. She was the first female to win. She's kind of that rock and roll, kind of bad,
edgy
personality.
Yeah.
And I wanted to work with that. You know, I'd done pretty much most of the jobs I had in Chicago were all 1 or 2 star Michelin restaurants. And I kind of wanted to go away from the formal aspect and learn about having fun again.
Yeah.
And that's what Girl on the Goat was. And that's what, you know, I worked there for just under 2 years with her. And she was that. She was exactly that. She was edgy. She was fun.
Yeah.
Her flavors were completely off the wall, but they worked so well together. And even to this day, it's one of the most successful restaurants in Chicago now.
That's crazy.
And to be there from the very beginning. And like I said, with the crew that I had at Spring, the crew that I had and I was a part of at Girl on the Goat was even bigger and better. You know, Joe Flam, who I worked with for a year and a half, like side by side with, he just won Top Chef.
Oh, cool.
So to see all those guys and, you know, on TV and in the papers and what they're doing today, it's a lot of, it's very special.
Does it, you know, there's a syndrome, I guess we get. We compare ourselves to others a lot, especially when social media makes it so easy to know exactly what's going on with everybody at every single fucking moment. Mm-hmm. Having these people rise up, of course, they put in a bunch of work. You put in a bunch of work. Do you ever sit back and think, man, maybe I want my moment?
You know, there was one point in my career, in my life, I said that.
Yeah.
In the last 5 years, I've kind of I just want to be happy every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was never that guy. I was never the guy who was going to be on TV, the guy who was going to be in competitions like that when it came to cooking.
Yeah. Not your thing. Not your jam?
I don't think so. You know, a lot of those TV shows look for kind of crazy attitudes.
Sure.
And I'm a lot more, I like to say I'm a lot more humble than a lot of those guys.
Sure.
I wouldn't start fights. I kind of would just like put my head down and say, yes, chef. And, you know, do what I know I can do.
Right.
While I probably, you know, some of those competitions I could probably do very well in. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really, I'm not looking to be a famous celebrity kind of personality.
Makes sense. I think there's an egocentricity about it, and that's okay too. Mm-hmm. You know, there's lots of star tender stuff, of course, we'll touch on. You get to see that piece now. But, you know, we're going through this career, and you end up at Easy's in Austin you said it's off 38th Street?
It was 38th and Lamar.
Yeah, I remember it had the big, massive sign, right?
Yeah, that iconic sign that's been there it was there for over 20 years, I believe.
And there's a fateful event, which maybe, I don't know, but is it a turning point? So one, describe that night for me when you guys have this devastating fire, but was that also kind of a
what happened was, in between Chicago and Easy's, I worked for Topgolf. That's where the Arizona move came in.
I got you. Okay.
So I started here as a server and bartender, worked my way up into management. My AGM and I were very close. Mm-hmm. He got the job to go open up a new store in Arizona, asked me if I'd come with him, gave him a 1-year commitment, went out there, opened it up, became the bar manager, fell in love with bartending and kind of the idea there.
Yeah.
But I absolutely did not like living in Arizona. Especially the town that we were in. We were in the town in Gilbert, Arizona.
Oh, I know. I used to live in Scott. Yeah, Gilbert. Ooh, that's a thankless town.
Yeah, exactly. Second largest Mormon population in the U.S. Yeah. You know? And I was in charge of the bar program at Topgolf. You know, we didn't. I'll tell you what, we sold the most Pepsi in the U.S. in any of our stores. I had the biggest Pepsi order every week. But after that, I came back to Texas. Unfortunately, my job at Topgolf was no longer available for me here. Mm-hmm. So I had to unfortunately leave the company. Such an amazing company. Learned so much. Going back to high school about structure.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that was.
Oh, good. So
it taught me so much. Yeah. So much about operating a $22 million a year establishment.
Yeah.
So that when I was ready to open up my restaurant and do $1 million a year, I'd know what I was doing.
Sure.
You know?
20 times over you would.
20 times over. I could do it 20 times. But yeah, so at that time, I put out some feelers to get a job here in Austin, and it just so happened that Easy's and I still have a good relationship, obviously, with my father still being one of the owners.
Yeah.
But he mentioned to me, he and the president gave me a phone call and we talked, and they said that their GM in Austin he needed to go. And that with my experience and my commitment to the company, I would be an obvious choice for them to bring in and kind of turn the restaurant around.
Yeah.
And that's what I ended up saying. Absolutely. Let's do it. Wasn't really excited about running kind of like a small little restaurant, but I came in there and we had a decent team. Had to make some tough choices and let some people go to better the company, but I brought in some great personalities. And we were doing great. We were turning around. Money was getting better. I gave everyone a raise. Their happiness immediately went up.
Yeah, that's great.
And then one fateful Wednesday, I believe it was in January. It was a Wednesday night. I typically took Wednesday nights off. Wednesday nights were kids eat free. And I had my front of house manager. She loved kids and loved working Wednesday nights, which was great for me because I hated the chaos.
Yeah.
So I took Wednesday nights off. And I went actually and had a nice little dinner over at Juniper with Nick Yanes. It was my first meal there. Sat at the bar by myself, hung out with our friend Ryan Foster at the bar.
Yeah.
And just had a nice little meal. And then right as I was finishing my entree, I got a phone call from my manager at Easy's, and she said, "Hey, Aaron, just a heads up, we have a little fire." I said, "Well, okay. How little of a fire?" She's like, "It's not a big deal, but I have called 911." I was like, "Okay, cool. I am finishing up dinner. I'll be there in 30 minutes." Right. So slowly finished my meal, paid my tab, got an Uber, headed up from East Caesar to all the way up north. And then I get a call from my kitchen manager who was off that night when I'm about 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, Aaron, are you on the way?" I said, yeah, I'm on the way. Sam already called me. There's a little fire, right? Well, there's 7 fire trucks here.
Oh, Jesus.
I was like, "What?" So that's a big fire. She's like, "Yeah, you need to get here pretty soon. They're asking for you." I was like, "All right, cool." So feeling beautifully in a wonderful, state of mind after dinner,
right,
kind of goes straight downhill into talking to the fire chief and figuring out when we're going to be able to at least get inside and how bad the fire is. And then getting all these guys coming to me handing business cards about reconstruction.
Right.
I'm like, "Guys, just leave me alone."
Feeding
like this is my business right here.
Yeah.
Same with the health department. Health department's on me immediately, making sure that we don't go in there and use anything that's not.
They're fucking. I've dealt with them, and it's like, really, guys. This is the real world, not some little petri dish.
We're not gonna poison somebody.
Right,
after
I'm not gonna
this
put
kind of thing
soot
happens.
on the chip. We know it's just stupid. Anyway, yeah, I get it.
So we ended up getting in there, seeing everything. I had to. It was the first time I had to break open a safe.
Jesus. What'd you use?
Fireman. I used the fireman.
Smart.
I was like, "Hey guys, you guys want to have some fun? You want to break the safe open?" They're like, "Yeah." So I used some crowbars and ended up bringing the jaws in there and getting it open for me so I could get all the money out. So yeah, I cleared out all the money and I took the computer and all the documents I could and everything and got out of there.
How bad are we talking?
It was $350,000 in damage. Somewhere in that area.
Or just this kitchen or?
So it started in the kitchen. My grill guy was cleaning behind the grill. And when he went to go push the grill back somehow the grill actually went over the back of the lowboy that it sits on.
Oh shit.
And it burst the gas valve.
Oh man.
So those things typically have fail safes.
Yeah.
Right. So if there's gas leaking out, the valve automatically shuts. But when you burst the valve and the fail safe,
no chance.
There's no chance. So it basically turned into a flamethrower.
Oh my god.
So it went up and through the
what ignited it?
The grill was still on.
Oh crap! So the sheer heat of it.
Right. So it was at 9:45 at night. We're 15 minutes away from closing, and I made sure that I told all my guys, "You guys are happy to clean when there's no people in the restaurant. That's fine, but nothing gets turned off until the minute we close. So the fryers don't get shut off early. The grill does not get shut off early. If someone walks in at 9:59 and we close at 10, we're serving them." Okay. So that was kind of my standard rule, and they enjoyed it. They loved it. because they got to get done early. And at the point, these guys were so fast that as soon as 10 o'clock came around and 10:01 came, turned off the grill, and they were out the door by 10, you know. So the grill was still on, lit the gas, turned into a flamethrower.
Jesus.
Flames went up into the rafters, basically burnt about 80% of the roof.
Wow.
And it was,
Everybody okay though?
Everyone was okay. Not a single person hurt. One of the first things when I came in and took over that restaurant, during my time at Topgolf, I was actually the elected safety manager.
Did you get a hat for that?
Yes, I sure did.
All right.
An OSHA certification.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yes. Had to go through a wonderful 25-hour online course for OSHA.
I was smiling. I just went flat. I was like, oh, Jesus. Grueling.
But a big part of it was fire safety. Yeah. And I ended up teaching fire safety to all the new incoming associates at Topgolf.
Faithful.
And fire was big for me. You know, I've lost some friends and family and houses and, you know, in my life to fire. So it's pretty important to me. So one of the first safety things I taught these guys was, look, if there's ever a fire in here, you save yourself and you run.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Flat out. You know, there's things that'll happen in the restaurant to help us. It's fine. The restaurant's not worth your life. No matter what, get out.
Right.
And do it calmly. You know, don't crazy. Right. You can walk past a fire. You're fine.
Yeah.
So they followed my instructions and they all got out. Everyone got out. Man. So no one was hurt. A little scared.
Yeah.
But that was it.
How long? So it's back. It did get repaired? It's back up?
No.
So that was it.
So I continued to work for EZ's kind of on a consulting atmosphere. Yeah. I was in, you know, from then on, I helped insurance and all that kind of stuff after a fire.
Right.
Once the estimate came back, the ownership pretty much was like, you know what, our lease is coming up. We're probably not going to renew it. Let's just wash our hands.
Wow.
The estimate to get back into the restaurant was 5 months, and there was a clause in the contract that said anything over 90 days, you can just wash out of the contract.
Interesting.
So they washed.
Wow.
And I found all of my entire crew. I found them jobs within 3 days.
Nice.
And then I was kind of stuck on the rails then.
Yeah. So this to me feels like the pivotal moment in which you're considering, or you do finally shift into being a bartender all the time. Is that fair?
Yes. So I definitely immediately started finding little jobs here and there for catering companies or just kind of side things to get me through. But I was actually thinking about getting back to cooking. I had found a couple investors. I had found a couple locations.
Oh.
I had developed 3 concepts that I really wanted to open. And after a few months of kind of picking up bartending here and there, I just didn't want to do it anymore. You know, just seeing all the restaurants open and all these restaurants closing in Austin really kind of deterred me away. And I said, you know what, let's go develop. I've developed in my career, I've developed the culinary arts. I've developed my management style. I've developed running restaurants.
Yeah.
Let's do bartending. So ended up starting bartending then.
And did pretty good on the competition scene. And
did okay.
It seems like a short period of time. There was, oh my God, Ted Bro. What's the Lucid Absinthe? That was one, right?
Yeah, did Lucid.
The Great Grappa?
Great Grappa. Yeah, I got to the national finals with that one.
Yeah.
Espolón. I won that one last year.
That's right. Yeah.
Got to go to the national finals and ended up getting in the final round. So I got either second or third.
You're a ringer, you know?
Here's the thing I always tell people about bartending and coming from the kitchens is running a station in a kitchen on a line is so similar to working as a bartender.
Right.
Because you have all your ingredients, you have all your mise en place, you have your garnishes, you have your station, you work clean, you add ingredients with technique to present a final product or a plate or a glass. So the correlation is there, and a lot of the organization and hand movements and sense of urgency is all the same.
Sure.
And then it came after all the years of developing my palate and tasting and creating dishes. A lot of these competitions were creating a brand new cocktail. So some of the best competitions I were in the last few years were about creating a brand new cocktail. One of my favorite ones was the Star of the Bar competition with USBG a couple years ago, where I created this really cool mezcal and Montenegro cocktail with blackberry and honey and Meyer lemon.
Nice.
Just like flavor wise and balance wise, it was one of my favorite cocktails I ever created.
You come in having paid a hell of a lot of dues, man. And it's weird because you don't think we maybe on the surface we don't think they're transferable, but these are completely transferable.
Absolutely.
You went to CIA, you worked at countless amounts of restaurants, stage throughout Europe. I mean, it kind of puts you in a really great situation to succeed and thrive in the bartending scene. So this is the question I would have to ask. So now we've been talking about your life up to this recent chapter, really, with Casa Noble. And we're sipping this Añejo, right?
Yeah, 2-year Añejo.
God damn. It's so good. I mean, you know what? You know why I don't drink a lot of Casa Noble Añejo? I don't think I deserve it. I need to work. I need to work more for my drinks sometimes, and this is just too easy. I don't know. This would be half bottle easy kind of thing.
Sure.
And although that's good, it's like a Monday today or Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yeah. See, Tuesday?
It's just a Tuesday.
It's just a Tuesday. Well, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, for us, though, like the days really don't mean much.
That's true. I'm going through
the day of the week for us doesn't mean much. For the typical 9-to-5er, yeah, it's a Tuesday. You shouldn't, we're not going hard yet.
Right. Well, and I don't go hard on the weekends, only in the weekdays. It's very strange.
I don't either. I'm the same way.
And I do have a 9-to-5, but that's all right. It's fine. Why the shift? Obviously, this is a great tequila company. I've heard the story from Chris Furtado about Pepe. That is, and it's enthralling to me how it started by just a small little get up and then turned into something pretty massive. I mean, even still small by tequila.
Oh, absolutely, very small.
But brand work. I mean, what about that was compelling to you?
So it really started when I met my first brand ambassador, and then when I was working at the Townsend.
Yeah.
And I just, I started seeing these guys coming in and, just hanging out with us and buying drinks and having fun and smiling. And I was like, what is that? What kind of job is that?
Yeah.
Because we don't have that in the culinary industry. There's no one,
right? Exactly.
There's no lobster ambassador.
Oh man, wouldn't that be
a good job? Just go around eating lobster all day long. Yeah. No, there's no lettuce ambassador,
right.
So in this industry, I didn't know what those were. And I started hanging out with them a lot more. Guys like Brandon Turner and Carly Donovan, Daniel Warlow, Travis Tober, just hanging out with these guys, getting to know them and having a great time doing it. I started to get to know what they did. And I was like, you know what? I think I'd be pretty good at this. So I kind of told myself, when my days are up behind a bar, I would love to try to transition into that. And it just so happened that a little bit later that year, I had another knee injury.
Oh shit!
So back when I was 19, I had surgery on my right knee.
Yeah.
And now at 32, I have surgery on my left knee. Because of this, also having some typical back problems coming from an athlete as well.
Right.
Just decided it's time to hang up the apron for a little while. Mm-hmm. And could stay in the business because this is the only business that I truly am happy in these days. And try to get my name out there. Yeah. That's really when I started kind of getting out into the competitions. And to make sure that when I was going to be applying for these kind of jobs, that people would know my name.
Yeah. So
kind of starting and creating myself as a brand. So that when I apply for these jobs, they see my resume come across their desk. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I know Aaron. Mm-hmm. I was hanging out with him so and so, and he's a good guy. Let's talk to this guy."
Yeah. It's smart because at some point you have to take there's ethical ways to do it, and because I feel like you've paid so many dues in this industry, it's logical that you had the skills and you didn't need to really hone them in too much more. This was the next logical expansion of your skill set and focusing on what it means to have a name in this industry, have integrity around that name too, which is very, very important. Mm-hmm. These are two things I think we both probably ponder quite a bit.
Yeah. And I had a couple opportunities, even before Casa Noble, I had a couple opportunities to get into it too. Yeah. But it was one of those where I wanted to work for the right brand. Mm-hmm. Some people start off with lower brands just to kind of break into the industry and break in and get their name out there. But I was just a little stubborn, I guess, in a sense, because I wanted to work. Right. I didn't want to waste time. I don't like to waste time. Yeah. I'm a very straightforward guy. I'm going to tell you how I'm thinking, kind of guy. And,
militant.
Yeah, exactly. Militant and chefy.
Yeah, there you go.
It sounds so derogatory.
No, but it's
stop being so chefy.
Yeah, it can be a very positive thing.
And then, the opportunity with Casa Noble came around. I had applied for the position already, but I was working at San Antonio Cocktail Conference earlier this year doing a little salt tasting with Twang Salt.
Cool.
Their beer salt.
Yeah.
Just making margaritas, and you could rim,
Yeah.
And Chris Furtado walked in. And I've never met him before, but I know what he looks like. I've seen him. I know who he is.
There's not really anybody that looks like him.
No. No.
Those tattoos and stuff. It's like kind of his thing.
If he had some facial hair, maybe like Brandon Hunt, Chober a little bit. But,
Sure. Yeah.
But no, Furtado's his own kind of guy, and he's an amazing mentor. And immediately he handed me his card, and he says, "Make sure you contact me." And then 3 months later, I sat down with him and a few other executives from Casa and marketing company behind it, and they asked me to be their Texas brand ambassador.
How long is this ago now?
That was in early April, and I started officially in the last week of April.
So we're soon we'll be we're
almost
just over about a half a year. Yeah,
almost. Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing, I ran into you the other night when we were at the Roosevelt Room. They're launching their new menu, and I knew about this brand from Chris. I knew about this brand from you, and I knew some about the story and all of that. But there's a couple things I found particularly intriguing because we're talking about the distillation, and I don't normally nerd out about this stuff on the show anyway. But being 3 times distilled in a pot still, that's cool. But the thing that I found kind of remarkable that you guys do is you distill your own water to proof down the first spirit run. Which I was like, why do you guys do that? And so why do you guys do that? I think it's interesting.
So the coolest thing one of the coolest things, I'll say this a lot, oh no, this is the coolest thing. Oh no, this is the coolest thing about Casa. No. So the water that we use is actually located in 3 wells underneath our distillery. So we pump up that water that comes through, where our distillery is and is high up in the mountains. It's close to 5,000 feet above sea level. So it's got some really cool, ground stuff that minerals that it picks up. But we take that water and we put it through our stills. So this is a couple of reasons. One, because we are an organic distillery, there's no chemicals, salts, solvents, sanitizers, anything like that in the distillery. The only way we clean our distillery is by hot water and steam.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
So after distillation, we'll take that water and basically cook out the cleaning process of the still. And then we'll take that water that comes out and then we'll distill again and again, actually twice total.
Yeah.
And what that does is that really rectifies the water. It cleans it out. It cleans out the stills and it takes all the minerals and stuff that are in that water that we don't want in Casa, pushes them away. So we're able to do the exact same way, kind of treat it like a heads, hearts, and tails situation.
Yeah, right.
So we're cutting our water basically and only taking the hearts out.
Yeah.
So we use that water for dilution after distillation and aging, as well as part of the extraction process and getting the agave honey out of the agaves.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it makes sense now that from a cleaning perspective, which I didn't realize that was one of the elements here. So this is spent 2 years in what to me tastes like French oak, but what is
brand new French oak?
Okay, perfect, good.
So that's one of the biggest signatures in Casa Noble is we are the only tequila distillery that uses exclusively brand new French oak barreling.
You were saying how damn expensive it is.
Our cheapest barrel, I believe, is $4,800.
God,
what's the 114 liter barrel?
114.
And our 360 liters are, I believe, like 14 grand.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And you said it was not Limousin, but it's another.
It's Terrazone.
Which
from the cognac forests.
Yeah, which is still really cool.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the flavor on this stuff's incredible. 80 proof, 2 years. Do you guys ever? It doesn't. Actually, none of this matters. This is delicious, and I really enjoy sipping it. For people on the streets, the people you're training, the industry and stuff, I imagine they flock to this pretty hard.
They definitely do. But you know what I've found a lot, and this comes from my culinary background into the bar background, is everyone has a different palate. The people who truly love agave and tequila, they definitely go more toward the Blanco, because when you go down to Mexico, nobody's drinking reposados or añejos.
Right,
They're all drinking blancos because that's where you really taste not only what the distiller is doing, but the flavor of the agave,
right,
and how it was cooked and how much they actually put time into it.
Yeah.
When you can taste a tequila and tell whether it was autoclaved versus steam roasted.
Sure, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with autoclaving tequila whatsoever.
They all got their place.
Yeah, they all have their place. Absolutely. One of my favorite other tequilas besides Casa Noble, which I won't say,
sure,
is autoclaved.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that. But it really shows the characteristics in the Blanco of what that distillery is doing.
Yeah.
To really make their mark on tequila.
The other thing that you guys are doing, I think that really does make your mark, and I think I love this trend in tequilas, this concept of still strength, which we had a good kind of intellectual conversation about with Fortaleza, one of the ones they're doing. Tapatio 110 and overproof. There's also the high proof that Siembra Azul puts out. And more to come. But you guys have, and this was what, 105? I can't
102.
remember. 102.
That's our Joven.
Yeah, we tried that. Ultimately, the Joven, the Blanco, it's still strength, right? And
we call it, it's not still strength, it's barrel strength.
Barrel strength, okay.
Right.
Which again was the thing we were kind of talking about. Either way, it's higher than 80 proof, and it really, really brings forward the nuances and the subtleties of the flavor of the agave. What's the thought there in terms of your presence in the market, having something a little higher proof?
So the Joven is a really special one. When Pepe engineered it and he decided to make this, his whole goal was to push it toward bartenders and cocktails.
Okay.
So having a 102 proof tequila that's been aged in new French oak barrels for 6 weeks.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I forgot about that. Okay.
Is really cool in cocktails. Now, for us, for the aficionados of agave, for the lovers behind the bar, drinking that neat is beautiful. It's got a nice little spice that I tend to gravitate to telling people kind of like a rye spice comparatively.
Sure, yeah.
But it's got this beautiful vanilla from the oak, and then it has the roasted agave and the white and green pepper that come off on it.
Yeah.
And then the really cool dried mango that comes out because of the fermentation. It's really a beautiful tequila, especially for the price point.
How much does it roughly retail?
So retail is hard to say because it's difficult to find retail.
Yeah,
it's kind of one of those on premise only for bars and restaurants only.
Okay.
But because a lot of bars and restaurants are buying from places like Austin Wine Merchant and Austin Shaker, you can find them at those locations.
Yeah.
I believe Austin Shaker's selling it for like 40, 44, 45.
Dude, that's great.
Yeah.
And it's, again, it's one of those things. I think about the vibrance of the flavor there because higher proof just does that. There's less water, you get closer to the alcohol, I can't imagine what that would taste like. And you guys probably already done it, you probably already tasted it. But that 12 months are over in this French oak. You've had it?
Oh yeah.
How does it taste over 6 months?
Over 6 months, the Reposado's at 364 days. It's this beautiful, smooth vanilla candy, with some nice dry chocolate on the back end and some fresh bitter grapefruit. Some people start to say butterscotch and caramel.
Right.
I get that a lot in the añejo. Like the añejo that we're sipping right now, to me, a lot of times just tastes like I put a Werther's butterscotch in my mouth.
One of the best candies ever.
Oh yeah.
But so at a higher proof, though, what does it taste like coming out?
At a higher proof, it dries out.
It does.
The sweetness is not there as much.
Okay. A little tight.
A little tighter. Yeah. But and that's only because of the alcohol.
Yeah.
Once you dilute it down to 80, those sweetness notes come out more.
Oils get separated.
Exactly.
Out.
Exactly.
It's a very luscious drink. I mean, I really can't wait to sip more of this stuff. This is good because for me,
plenty.
We're going to hit the pause button here, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll be back.
So the last chapter here, education, giving back, maybe writing a memoir. I mentioned this a lot to folks, but you've actually lived it, so there's probably a bit to write about. But you now are at the helm of the USBG Austin, is that correct?
I'm the vice president.
The vice president. Well, at the helm of multiple people. That are, you know what I mean? Like, you guys are at the front of the boat.
We have a really nice council right now.
Yeah. So this kind of shift to a more mentorship role, in a sense, giving back and paying it forward role, which I think is a great thing to do now in your career, given how much experience you've had. What was the impetus for that in getting involved? I know we had a couple conversations about it, but for you, what was that moment where you're like, okay, I got to do this now?
It was really a flattery event that happened. Last year, when we had elections for our new council, I was approached by multiple people asking me if I thought I would run.
Yeah.
If I thought I could show some commitment to the chapter, because and then that's where the flattery came in. They just kept naming all these things about me, and they're like, "You'd be perfect for it." And I was intrigued. I was in my social groups in high school, I was always part of the council.
Yeah.
Being a manager for multiple years at Topgolf, I was a leader and taught people. And education's a huge part of what I love to do. So I kind of thought about it for a minute, and I said that if I ran for anything, it would be vice president. And at the time, Stephanie Tessler was our vice president, and she was going to run again. So I said, you know what? Stephanie's amazing. She's been great. She's been a great leader. She's a great educator. There's no reason for me to kind of like try to run against her.
Sure.
So I'll just step back and wait another year or two. And then in June, Stephanie took a amazing job with Patron Tequila, and that moved her to Florida, so she could no longer be our vice president. So the way that works in USBG is it goes to the council to basically appoint a replacement. And they immediately, Jessica Lee, our president, immediately approached me and said, will you be our vice president? It'll be a 6-month term because we'll have elections in January.
Right.
But will you help us out for the 6 months? And I answered, absolutely. The USBG in Austin has done a lot for me in my career. It's opened a lot of doors. It's introduced me to a lot of people. A lot of USBG, a lot of the competitions I did were always sponsored by USBG. So it was an obvious choice to give back to the community and give back to younger bartenders who are coming up.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because in a way, I feel that's our... no, you know what? It is our obligation. As we get older, as we have a larger culmination of experiences and successes and failures alike, these stories have to be told. They have to be shared, And so I think that's really good to take that angle and to kind of look at the education. And it helps you meet the new people because, what's funny is maybe not everybody's like us. Maybe not everybody's ambitious. Maybe they're not really drawn to being educated or learning more about the craft or whatever. But there's always somebody that is.
Exactly.
And that, in a way, is what keeps, I hope, us both moving forward to inspire and to delight and kind of help these other people do great work,
Yeah.
Well, so I got 2 questions left for you.
All right.
As we've been sipping this, I mean, it's almost like masturbatory. Me keep talking about how good this is, so I'm going to stop talking about it.
It's okay. Keep saying it. It's fine.
I'm going to call from your marketing company. Hey, can you take out that masturbatory word when describing our tasting notes? Like, no, I don't think I'm going to do that.
No.
Don't think
You didn't see the NC-17 rating on this?
Yeah, come on. It's explicit on iTunes and Spotify. We're all already warned everybody. But this specific spirit, this añejo, 2 years and over, in this French oak, Casa Noble, you're anywhere in the world and you can have a conversation in this particular drink with anybody, living or deceased. Who might you like to sit down and wax poetic with, make dumb jokes about, and anything in between?
Is that who and where, or just who?
Just who.
Just who.
Yeah.
Throughout my entire life, I got a nod to my parents, my family. They really raised me right.
Yeah.
What I like to call right. My sister and my sister both. And we really appreciate all the lessons that our parents gave us and the way they raised us and how much love they showed to us.
Yeah.
But one thing that I always have and I've always had is a love with my dad of the Rat Pack.
Oh, nice.
So my answer would definitely either be, if I was able to choose the entire Rat Pack, absolutely.
Right.
Or just Frank Sinatra.
Just
to really
man.
wax poetic with him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The stories.
Yeah.
You hear Quincy Jones talking about how much he had to drink with the Rat Pack?
Yeah, I've heard those stories.
I can't even imagine.
Uh-huh.
I'm not a tall guy. I don't know how those guys did it. But still a mark of masculinity, but class. It's this beautiful balance. Of course, they loved women, but it seemed like they respected women.
Yeah, it could be. There were times when it was chauvinistic, but at the same time, they truly did love them.
Yeah,
chivalrous, exactly.
Yeah, it's an interesting group, and it's nice to have those icons in the past, as we can have new ones there in the future. The last question is: you're heading to Portland. Is the next week or the week after that?
Oh, Saturday.
Dude.
I leave on Saturday. I come back the following Sunday.
Portland.
That's 8 days in Portland.
Cocktail week.
Yeah.
Lots of work you should be doing. What are you looking forward to most going out to the festival, the conference, as you will?
What am I looking forward to the most? I'm looking forward to meeting new people.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to seeing Portland. I've never been before.
Oh. Yeah.
But I'll tell you the thing I'm looking forward to the most is seeing my team. Hanging out with Shauna from Chicago and Reza from San Francisco and Phil from Miami. The four of us out there are really, really. There's 7 of us ambassadors for Casa Noble around the country, and only 4 of us are going to Portland.
Yeah.
But we are such a tight family, and just being around them again is really what I'm looking forward to the most.
Your own Rat Pack, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Our own little Rat Pack.
Drinking a shit ton of tequila, potentially, or because maybe the marketing company is listening, responsibly sharing the beautiful nature and flavors of Casa Noble tequila.
And just spreading the noble pursuit.
It's clever.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very clever. Aaron, this has been a long time coming, mate.
Yeah.
And this has been just a pleasure sipping this tequila with you, talking about your life. And I'm always taken aback by the vast experiences of some of the guests I've had. The ways that they've lived, the places they've gone, and how they can inspire other people. So thank you for taking that time out. Of course, thank you. It's been a pleasure for me. And we'll have to keep in touch. And we're going to sip some more Añejo.
Absolutely. And that single barrel Repo I brought you as well.
There is no doubt.
That guy.
We will.
That guy's a lot of fun.
I hope so. We'll see. We'll explore it. Yeah. Aaron, thanks so much. Chat soon.
My pleasure. Thank y'all.
So there we have it. What do you guys think of Mr. Aaron Kolitz, the vice president of the USBG here in Austin, Texas, and a great ambassador for agave, but specifically Casa Noble? Again, a very generous guy. He's introduced me to some amazing tequilas in a time when, I've got to be frank, tequila is not necessarily my thing, but he is here for the community. He's here to talk and very, very engaged. He's really a good example of, setting your career straight, having goals too. It's one of these things. He's really a good mentor for us all. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. And no matter how many times you think that old actors aren't good in horror movies, as is the case with Ghost Story, or if you're thinking, I gotta stop watching Beat Bobby Flay, please keep dancing.